Good evening to you all. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to you all. Good evening to you. I'm going to check the sound to make sure that I'm coming across okay. If not, I will log on onto another phone. Shut that noise on, but give me a second. I will begin in a moment. Good evening, everyone. I want to talk for a while tonight. I want to talk for at least an hour. At least an hour. Good evening to you all. I want to speak for at least an hour tonight. I just want to make it a light, informal type of talk. Nothing too heavy. Nothing too heavy. Good evening to you all. Hello there. The Invaders Slaves. According to the story of the African Americans, they came here to the Americas as slaves for the Europeans. That's the story they tell us. They say we came here as slaves. Well, let me tell you something. Those slaves are more dangerous than the invaders. The slaves are the same as their invaders. The invaders came with their slaves. Their slaves don't belong to me. I don't know their slaves. Only them and their slaves have a close relationship like family. They have the same guards. They serve the same God. They have the same customs. They eat the same thing. The invaders fuck their women. The invaders fuck their children. They are a family. Between the two of them is a cozy relationship. And what I'm saying to you may sound far-fetched, but if you look at the relationship between the African Americans and their European masters, it is a cozy relationship. They came to the Americas together. And it is together they are destroying the Americas. It is together they are destroying Americans like me. The biggest deception are the African Americans. I'm a Haitian woman. I'm a Caribbean ancestry Haitian woman. The African Americans, they hate me. Now, I have friends. I have some African Americans who have been very kind to me, and they are the exception to that. African American women are naturally good hearted towards other people. As long as it's not themselves, they'll be okay and good to that person. So I have been the beneficiary of some of that kindness. I cannot dismiss it. I cannot ignore it. I cannot discount it. Because I am grateful for kindness. And I know that kindness does not come with skin color. Kindness does not need you necessarily to be purple to be kind, or to be orange to be kind. And so, when I look at the behaviors of African Americans in the 21st century, and I look at the behaviors of African Americans in the 20th century, in the 19th century, it has gotten worse. It would have been better off if they remained in their territory with their European masters. Because invaders has rendered us Americans victims of them. Let me repeat that again because some people may not understand what's going on here. What's going on here is the ball stops here. The African Americans are the primary agents who are discriminating against me as a Haitian. They are the primary agents of racism. They are the primary agents of discrimination. The world of racism is a world that the African Americans and their European fathers, they built that world together so they can take people like me in entrapment. It's not the first time the African Americans are going to try or going to not try because they've already had me in it. They've had me in entrapment. This is called entrapment. Do you people remember when George Michael went into a bathroom? Do you remember the time when George Michael went into a bathroom and right then and there in the bathroom, when George Michael went in that bathroom, there was a gay man waiting for him to offer him sex. They knew it was George Michael. They were waiting for. That's called entrapment. The European invaders, they came to the Americas with their black slaves. They came with their black slaves specifically to confuse the Americas. Together, it wasn't separate, it's together. The European invaders and their black slaves, they work together. They are a union. They are a unit. When they present racism as a conflict, it's entrapment for Caribs like me, for full-blooded Americans like me. Because the European and their black slaves work together. It is within the conflict of racism I'm going to lose because I don't know anything about that. That's the game they played together to take my land. That's the game they played together to hijack my culture. You have to understand the black slaves, they belong to the Europeans. They will never be your friends. There will never be any type of worth for humanity. They will always be worth for the Europeans. They will never be worth for Mother Nature. They will always be worth for the Europeans. Whatever concepts the Europeans hold dear, their black slaves will propagate it. That's the job of the black slaves, to get other humans under their European masters. The European masters, they don't have to go and conquer like they used to anymore. Because the way that they conquer is through their black slaves. You have to understand the only thing we and these black slaves have in common is a skin color. And that was the reason to create a conflict of racism. And it is, if you go and you get involved in this conflict of racism, you will lose your land. The African Americans, they will possess your land with their slave masters. That's exactly what they did in West Africa. If you look at West Africa, the blacks that you see there, they were not the original blacks. And there is no use to keep using skin color to refer to these people. Because skin color was never a factor to describe humans. But the Europeans and their black slaves, they do it on purpose to confuse humans like me. And it is within that confusion that they take our land, they take our culture, they take our worth. It is within that skin color conflict that they destroy Americans like me. They destroy natives like me. you go and you get involved in the skin color, in the racism, you will lose your children, you will lose your home, you will lose your land, you will lose your culture, you will lose everything that holds you together as a human being, and you will become just a weak version of what they want you to be. The minute you join the African Americans in the game of racism, you lose. You become an animal with no logic. And that is what the African Americans want you to do. That is when they fulfill their purpose. When you get involved in the game of racism, they win. And the European invaders win as well. And they are a team. The African Americans and the European invaders are a team. They are not different from each other. They are family. They are a team. They have been together since they were conquered by Rome. These people, these African Americans, they are the possession of Rome. You cannot get involved in what they do to each other. They've been together for centuries, and they've been doing exactly what you see them do right now. That's exactly what they've been doing. And that's how they trick us, the rest of the world, into wars. That's how they trick us into losing our own land. The minute you start paying attention, I got to check that sound. I forgot to check the sound. Give me a second, please. If you, not if, it's a couple of you under the broadcast, please let me know if the sound is coming out okay. I don't have the best sound here. Do comment and let me know if you're receiving the sound properly. And if you are new to my broadcast, subscribe. Subscribe to the channel and invite others to do so. The information I share here is valuable, and that's just to say the least. And I do not expect the slaves to love me. I just don't want you to keep making my life difficult. I do not seek a love from the slaves. I do not seek acceptance from the slaves because I don't worship the Europeans like they do. I don't serve the Europeans like they do. And let me tell you, it's not because I don't want to. So I don't want any slaves coming to attack me, because if I could serve the Europeans, I would, because it's the easier way to have life and success. Thank you very much, Tommy. It's the easiest way to have life and success is to serve the Europeans. If I'm not serving as well as you think I should, it's because my bloodline is not allowing me. My bloodline is not allowing me to be a slave like you. My bloodline is not allowing me to go against God, because I'm a godly human. I'm an original human. I'm a native of the Americas. And I have a personal relationship with God. The African Americans, their God is the European. And their God, I would say their gods are the Europeans. The African Americans, they may want to deny what I'm saying here, but for them to deny it, they have to go find logic. So if you want to go back where you came from to go find logic, you are welcome. But the African Americans, they don't want to acknowledge where they came from. They do not understand why they have such an affinity to Jesus. They do not understand why they are such devoted Christians, and I'm not. You are a Christian because you are property of the Romans. You are property of the Greeks. I'm not, because I'm a property of Mother Nature. You have been a property of the Greeks for centuries. The Greeks colonized you in Western Asia. You have been used to destroy Egypt. You've been used to destroy the great kingdom of West Africa, where my ancestors were there in Dahomey Kingdom. You have been used around the globe to destroy original people in our homes. It's the theater that you and the West and the Westerners, it's the theater that you create. You guys are the same. You have the same mental illness. You have the same eating habits. You have the same everything. But yet you want People like me, you want real Americans like me to believe that you hate each other because of racism. That's not true. The minute real Americans like me believe that, that's when we lose our land. And because you, the African Americans, you'll be the first to take the land and oversee it for your massa. Just like you oversee social services, just like you oversee the courts. Imagine the teaching institutions in this country, they are the worst. And look at the people who are destroying children through those institutions. It's you and you and you. But yet, you want to make people believe that you are a victim. You're not a victim. You're a willing participant. You're a collaborator. You're an actor. You're a primary actor. The principal role is yours because it is because of your skin connection. The only thing that we have in common is the skin color. And skin color does not even matter to my people. That's not how we identify race. You have to understand it is the African Americans together with the Westerners, with the Europeans who are redefining race. They are redefining Mother Nature's logic. They are devil-worshipping demons. Jesus is not God. But the African Americans and the Europeans, they want to make you believe that Jesus is somebody because they know Jesus is not powerful enough to punish them. And they create plots. They create scenarios to punish you in the name of Jesus. But none of it is godly. It's just men-made scenarios, men-made situations. That's all they are. So let's say you were here and you were hungry, and an African American came to you and fed you. The African American is going to tell you Jesus fed you. In the name of Jesus. It's the plot. It's humans who reinforce the plot. Jesus doesn't have enough spiritual power to do meld. Humans act for Jesus. Whereas Mother Nature is the representation of God. The African Americans and the European masters, they're going to tell you God is invisible. But my ancestors, my American ancestors, they don't say that. They say God is not invisible. And they are right because they are with logic. The African Americans, they don't have logic. The African Americans, they have the logic of the Europeans that have been creating them. But my ancestors, we have the logic of God because God is not invisible. God is represented through Mother Nature. God manifests through Mother Nature. But you see, the African Americans and the Europeans, they disrespect Mother Nature every day. And they do it wholeheartedly. Because in their logic, Mother Nature is not God. In their logic, Mother Nature is their possession to manipulate. Mother Nature is their playground to disrespect. Whereas in my logic as a Haitian, as a full-blooded American, Mother Nature is everything. Mother Nature is the God. God manifests through Mother Nature. And I'm going to tell you how fake the African Americans are in their Jesus. Notice that whenever there is bad weather, they are the first people to shake in their boots because they know God is reacting and they know they have no relationship with Mother Nature. And they know that their relationship with Jesus is only superficial. It will not hold water when Mother Nature roars. And whenever there is a little semblance of bad weather, you will see these African Americans shaking in their boots because they are the devil's assistant. They are the devil's possession. They are the devil's worker. You are the devil's incarnated. You are the devil with nails, with fingernails. Let me repeat to you to let you know that you are the devil with fingernails. You can kill somebody right now and go to Jesus and say Jesus forgives you, but Mother Nature will tell you that doesn't make any sense. They are using the Bible because the Bible does a great job at double talking, because the Bible was written by scammers and criminals. And those criminals, they are the African Americans and their European counterparts. They are no different from each other. Farrakhan is no different than George Bush. No different. And what they have been doing is they have been using skin color to make it look like we have something in common. No. Nowadays, we have something in common because you've been using propaganda from television to spread your destructive culture that you have created with the Europeans. You are spreading it like wildfire. You're using major media. Major media belongs to you as an African American. Major media is where you go, you play your part. That's where you play your role. That's where you fulfill your role. And you have been property of the Greeks and the Romans for centuries, and I'm telling you that. Because it looks like you want to forget. You want to take my history to make it yours. African Americans, they are going around the world taking other melanated cultures' history to make it theirs. They don't know what foot to stand on because they are thieves. They are trained to steal from you in the name of blackness. And if you resist and if you stand up for yourself, if you stand up to be an honest, moral individual, you know what they say to you? Oh, you lack self-love. If you deny them, if you say, you know what, you will not get me involved in the shyst of skin color that you've created with the Europeans to steal land. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you concrete examples to show you how dangerous these African Americans are. Notice West Africa right now. Who do you think inhabit West Africa right now? West Africa is inhabited by the property of the Greeks. The same slaves that the Greeks conquered in Western Asia. It was the same slaves that the Greeks used to invade. The Greeks and the Romans, they used the Christian crusade. It wasn't just them alone. They invaded West Africa using these Hebrew slaves. That's how half of my ancestors got displaced out of West Africa. That's how I know that history. You have to understand, when you're looking at Haiti, Haiti got, like, on the geography of Haiti, it was as of 1735, 1750 that we got those slaves dropped on our land. Those slaves got dropped on Haiti land to create disruption so they can steal our land. Because you have to understand, the Caribs was considered like heaven, paradise. We have everything in the Caribs. And as Caribs, we know most of what Mother Nature has taught us. We have retained most of it. So when you look at Haiti land and you see how those slaves, they got dropped on Haiti land. And then you have one of the number one slave, Dessalines. And they begin to devise this conflict. And they got us involved. They got us, the natives, involved because we thought they were sincere. And that's called entrapment. If the slaves were really sincere, they would have been free because we freed them. My ancestors, we freed the fucking slaves. So if they wanted freedom, they would have had it. But that's not what they want. That is not what they want. They want to keep entrapping you until they possess your land, until they tell you they are the Americans and I'm not. But they are slaves. They are very dangerous. Right now in the United States, the Europeans, they don't have to do much because their slaves do it all for them. They don't have to do the killing, they don't have to do the terror, they don't have to do the discrimination, they don't have to do the marginalization. The slaves do it for them. I am a victim of African American slaves. Every single day I go out of my house, I have to deal with African American slaves discriminating against me, marginalizing me in my own land. And when you refuse to participate in the game of racism, you know what they say? Oh, you are self-hating black. Black ain't got shit to do with it. Black my ass. Black has nothing to do with race. The African Americans and the European together, they have distorted Mother Nature's logic. That's a sin. They are the fucking devil. Them and their Jesus. They are the devil. That is Satan. And if you do not know that they are the devil, then you don't know God. You don't know how God manifests. You have no idea. And so I will share with you just a little bit about God. God is the eternal force. God is not invisible. God manifests through Mother Nature. God manifests through us. God is not invisible. So if you look at West Africa right now, you can tell those are not the owners of that land because they don't know how to work with the gods of that land. When my ancestors left West Africa, we left with the gods of the land. We took them with us. Fucking slaves. I do not have any compassion for slaves. It's in my bloodline. You cannot force me. I am under attack daily. I don't know when it will become where they kill me or they try to kill me or attempt to kill me. I don't know. Because as far as I'm concerned, they have tried to kill me many times. If you stop me from working to feed my kids, that is you killing me. If you blackball me, that's you killing me. If you stop me from eating, I will starve. So as far as I'm concerned, there have been numerous attempts to kill me already. Because my mind will not convert to the man-made situation they got going on. Excuse me, I had to pause for a second. And so I'm not going to stop speaking logic. Because as far as I'm concerned, fuck your truth. Fuck your history. My ancestors taught me geography. My ancestors taught me logic. When you look at the African Americans and their European masters, they are not about logic and geography. They are about truth and history, which is a platform. It's a delusional platform. As far as I'm concerned, the African Americans and their European masters, they're crazy. They are mentally ill. They are the devil. They are Satan. You can tell by the way they worship Jesus. It's all about blood and blood and blood and sacrifice and sacrifice. You are Satan to me. And it's a shame that the African American women, and it's a shame that the African American women are turning around themselves because at the end of the day, they are the only true manifestation of humanity in the African American population. If you want to find someone with a good heart, it will be an African American woman, but she will not know how to treat herself right. Even though she has a good heart, she's not going to understand logic enough to treat her own children right. Don't you think that's abnormal? But that's the mind of a slave. That's how a slave is calibrated to treat everybody else better than her own self. It is time for Mother Nature to intervene. Mother Nature, it is time for you to intervene. Oh, Senor, God Almighty, you are the only God, you are the only supreme being. God Almighty, let my voice speak to your voice. Let my soul speak to your soul. Let the power you have placed between and within me activate enough to reach you. Let me vibrate enough to reach you, God. And I plead with you, God, please intervene. Please intervene, for I am so weak among the slaves and their masters. They are so powerful and they have made my life so impossible. God intervene. Suicidal. I do not hate anyone around me. I have no wants to hurt myself or to hurt anybody around me. If you hear in the news that I'm dead and I committed suicide, it will be a pure lie. I will never. Mother Nature intervene. God intervene. Mother Nature, let these people know you are mother of the crimes they have committed against you. They will pay. They will pay. I am too little to make them pay, and I do not desire to make them pay. Who am I? They are your creation, Mother Nature, and only you know how to deal with your creation. Activate your powers so you may relieve me of this burden of your logic, because the burden of your logic is too great for me to bear alone, to carry alone. I need you to fortify me. I need you to strengthen me. God Almighty, do not let these slaves and their and let them destroy my life. Give me the strength to stand. Blackness, but black can keep it occupied. I do not belong with these people. I do not associate with the slaves and their master. God, give me the simplicity to exist under the sun and to be one with you, God. Give me enough love to be in harmony with you, to be in harmony with everything else that you've created. God, you are God. Manifest within me. You are free to manifest within me, God. I am your servant. You are free to use me as you please. Let none of these slaves have power over me. You will be my shield, God. You will watch over me. You will protect me against these slaves, for they are powerful. These African Americans, they are everywhere. They are in the courts. They are in the stores. They are everywhere, making my life impossible. God, intervene, God. Intervene and be my shield. Let me become invisible to the slaves. Let the slaves see me not. Let them not see my soul as it is so free. It is so painful to them when they see my free soul. They seek to hurt me. God, don't let them have enough power to hurt me. Let their power turn against them. Let them eat themselves. Let them destroy themselves. Let them and their masters turn against each other, and they will erase themselves. And we, your creation, God, we shall have our earth once again as our inheritance once again. God, give them occupation. Give occupation to the slaves and their masters. Let me be an invisible star among them. Let them not find ways to hurt me. Whether I go to the post office, whether I go to the doctors, wherever I go, they have devised a system and I'm entrapped in it. I'm entrapped in the system, God. Only you have the power to deliver. Abracadabra, you deliver. And so when you look at the West Africans as they exist right now, you can tell they are not the original West Africans because they don't have the power to make West Africa better. They are destroying West Africa. And West Africa is the possession of the Europeans. And that is what the Europeans do. They use their slaves. Their slaves are the African Americans. They use the African Americans to invade your territory. And then they're going to familiarize with you using skin color as if we have something in common. We have nothing in common. And if it wasn't for major media and the propaganda of music and film and all of that, forcing us to mimic you, forcing us to copy your inhumane habits, we would have nothing in common. So they went into West Africa and they took the African American slaves. Back then, they were just Hebrew slaves. And the Hebrew slaves came and used that skin color variation just like they're doing here in the Americas. And that's how they took over West Africa. But when they take over West Africa, who did they give it to? They gave it to the plot. The plot came out of Western Asia. So obviously the Chinese and the Europeans are going to have first that, because that's the plot. And so now they are in West Africa, and the territory is becoming European territory. And that's what you have to understand. You got to watch the progression of geography. It's not about history. It's not about truth. It's about Mother Nature's logic. It's about geography. Watch the geography. Watch the people on the geography. When you look at the West African slaves that are in West Africa, when you look at the African Americans in the United States, they are the same people. Look at their bodies. They are the same people. Those are the slaves my ancestors warned me about. Negnuetzizoi. This is how my ancestors described you. My ancestors described you as a black nigger, little ears. Black nigger with little ears. And when you mix with the Europeans, you get the bigger ears. You're not like the original prime animals. You are mixed animals. And if you people think this is the first mix, you are wrong. If you think this is fly, you ain't seen. Egypt was way more fly than this, and I can testify to that. And the Egyptians, they got magic from my ancestors. That's how come they created Egypt. Egypt was where people came. People came from the countrysides, which was West Africa. They came from elsewhere, and they gathered in Egypt to create this civilization, to create this burgeoning. And Egypt was governed by magic. And the magic which governed Egypt, these people learned from the countryside of West Africa. We got that magic. And when my ancestors left West Africa, we left with that magic, which is the magic on how to blow soul into a human. And that's why the Europeans are they're going far and beyond to create human life, to turn men into women, turn women into men, because they want to have the magic my ancestors got. They want to know how to wake up the dead. And my ancestors know that. My ancestors got that down pat. And ever since Egypt, they've been trying. They've been trying to get, but we were never on an egotistical tip where we were not sharing magic. Even when Jesus wanted to learn magic, Jesus went to my ancestors and we taught him how to walk on water. We taught that motherfucker magic. So it's not like we didn't want to teach magic. It's just they got greedy. Because they don't understand you cannot use the magic to destroy Mother Nature. You will feel like you are powerful, but then what you will do is you will create hell. You will create. Listen, there is no fucking heaven. The heaven that there is the land I occupy. It's the Caribbeans. That's heaven. That's the Caribbean islands. That's heaven. That's paradise. You go to Europe, it's not paradise. Paradise is in the islands. There is no other heaven. Hell is right here in the West. And these Europeans and their slaves, they've been trying to turn everywhere they go into hell, because that's where they reign. That's where they have power. They have power in hell. When they make life impossible for other humans, that's where they have power. You have to understand demonic possession, demonic entities. We, the Haitians, we, the Caribs, we are the only humans who do not function on the order of the Europeans. We function on the order of Mother Nature. We take orders from Mother Nature. We mimic Mother Nature. We replicate Mother Nature. We have a voodoo that tells us that's the Bible of Mother Nature. You see what I mean? But the Europeans and their black slaves, they hate us because we are interfering with their plans. They have a man-made order. And the only thing that's challenging the man-made order is our existence as Haitians. We are the originals. We are Mother Nature's horse. Mother Nature rides us whenever she wants. We are Mother Nature's horse. But the Europeans, they want to be us. They want to be Haitians. That's how they have all these Illuminati, this and that. Hey, don't believe the hype. The African Americans, they do the dirty job. They lick the devil's ass. You African Americans, you lick the devil's anus. You let the devil perforate your anus with his dick. You are actually the devil's servants. You do the dirty job because you're the slaves for the Western Europeans. You are their slaves. Of course, you're going to do their dirty jobs. But what you're doing in this church is gyrating. That's not God. That's not God. That's not God. That's not God. That's the order. That's the order that you've created. It is satanic, but it's not God. Satan lives in your church. Satan is in your gospel choir. Satan is the gospel choir. All of that is satanic. All of the shits you do. And the worst thing about these African Americans is they are so audacious. They don't know how to tell the truth. Like, and they do it in plain sight. And while they are doing it in plain sight, they want you to think it's something else. But they are doing it in plain sight. But they want you to think they're doing something else. So they go into church and they do extreme demonic activities, but they want you to think they're praising God. No, that's not godly. The things you do in the church, that's not godly. First of all, if you were in a Christian church, you're not supposed to mix with Masons. But they do, because they serve the same masters. They serve the same demons. You have to understand the Christian church and the Masons, they serve the same demon. They serve the same purpose. That's why you will see most of the people who are Masons are devout Christians. And they are also Greeks, because those are the possessions of the Greeks. They will pledge for Greek organizations. They serve Greek purposes. Things like the NAACP, those are slave servant organizations. They're not here for anything else but to possess my land. They're not here for anything else but to hijack my culture and to pretend to be me. And after they pretend to be me, they will hand over the land to the Europeans. And then they will maintain all affairs of the land for the Europeans, just like they did in the time of Caesar. Those are the Hebrew slaves that the Greeks conquered. And they have not had enough strength to unconquer themselves. On the contrary, they and the Europeans who conquered them have become one. They have the same culture, the same language, the same mannerism, the same acts of terror. It's them. That's why they go around the globe, to learn the cultures of melanated people so they can pretend to be us, so they can steal from us, so they can entrap us. Don't believe the hype. It's not real. It will never be real. And Mother Nature will put an end to this. And that's what it means to have faith. It's not to have faith in the things that humans create. It's to have faith in God. It's to know that the sun will rise and the sun will set. That's faith in God. God manifests through Mother Nature. When the wind blows, that's God. That's God manifesting. God, can you not feel the wind? And sometimes you can see it. So God is not invisible. When it rains, that's God manifesting. God is not invisible. I'm going to keep speaking my plight of what I'm going through with the African Americans as they are serving their masters to make my life hard, to eliminate me so they can take my land to give it to their masters. I'm going to keep speaking about this because that's the only way I can get it off my chest, because I'm not powerful enough to fight them head for head, toe to toe. So this is the healthier way for me to get it out of my system, because these are not ancient times where my ancestors were together. These are the times where my ancestors are under, my community is under attack. My community has been divided by Jesus. And so for the Haitians who are still together like me, They don't even live in this country. Most of the Haitians in this country, they are lost. And they are sucking African American nutsacks to destroy themselves. When you look at a woman like Baina Bello, who was supposed to be a precious person for our country, but she has already joined with the African Americans to destroy my country. So it's really a setup. It's an entrapment. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe in the racism. You don't know anything about it. Tommy Tucker says they are hungry for blood and money. Yes, and souls, Tommy Tucker. They want to become like Haitians. That's why they fragment their children so early in life, because they do not understand how we Haitians, how we get possessed by so many different forces of nature. That's why the European and the African Americans, that's why they abuse their children very early, like they fuck their children early. Do you see how sexualized the African Americans are? The African Americans have turned all other people around the world into sex beings. You see, and when you become over sexualized, you're not balanced. How can you make good decisions as a human when you over sexualize? When you look at an African American, when you look at the average African American, that's an over sexualized human. When you look at the average African American women, they are not even well aligned. When you look at the average woman, they are pushing their ass backwards and they are sticking their chest forward and they are misaligned. And the children are over sexualized. The children are their children body parts are named with sexualized epithets. They and the Europeans are one. They and the Europeans, they work together. They, the Europeans, are brothers and sisters. So race is not based on skin color. That's why the African Americans and the Europeans, they want you to think about skin color, because they don't want you to know. YouTube is sanctioning me. YouTube is sanctioning me, guys. Sometimes I or listening to the broadcast, and then it will flip to 0, and then it will flip back to a few people. YouTube is messing with me, but I cannot do the slaves honor. I don't like slaves. I never did. Matter of fact, 300 years ago, my territory. The slaves and the Europeans are one. They are the same. The African Americans and the white man, they are the same. They work together. The NAACP is a trick. It's just to make you think something is happening. But the NAACP serves the white man. Racism, that's the game that the African Americans and their white masters and leather, because according to my ancestors, they are invaders. Because according to my ancestors, they are invaders. And according to them, they are invaders. So logically speaking, none of them should land on this continent. But guess what? Look at this continent. They are now possession of this continent. Why? Because they came with their slaves of black skin to confuse us. I was telling you a story earlier about my country. How the slaves came in my country. They dropped them in my country to confuse us. And one of the number one slave, his name was Dessalines. When they said that they were a land, they took as a result of that. And everybody on that, they are not the original Hispaniola. Those are the children that the slaves birthed for the Europeans. So they could become light-skinned, so they can tell us they are better than us and steal our territory. Because we the Carib, we are black like black, and the white masters, they focus on it to steal our land. That's what the Europeans use to steal our land. He uses the skin color of his slaves to gain familiarity, to tell us we have something in common. We have nothing in common. The Europeans, they know we have nothing in common. That's why it's entrapment. They set up their slaves to steal our land on the notion that we have a skin color war. There is no skin color war. Mother Nature created us all to exist, all what the Europeans do to get your land, and they use the African Americans. They've been doing it for a century. That's how they lost Egypt. It was those Hebrew slaves. They have been the property of, they were conquered by the Greeks. That's why they continue to pledge to the Greeks even today. You go to their universities and you'll see them pledging to the Greeks because they are slaves of the Greeks. They are properties of the Greeks. If you don't believe me, check your history. Your own history tells you that's what you are. It's not just my ancestors who tells me that. Your own history tells you you are a slave. But it's not just that you're a slave. You in the Europe, if you didn't love each other so much, your women would not open her legs so the European can fuck her and populate a whole Dominican Republic. The whole Dominican Republic was populated by slaves who were getting fucked by their masters. You think we, the Carib, you think we were going to open our legs to these motherfuckers? Come on, get the fuck out of here. Absurd. I'm starting to curse. The minute I'm starting to curse, I got to sing my language. I don't want to curse anymore. The Europeans and their black slaves are cursed enough. I will leave the curse to them. I don't want to curse anymore. That's the one thing I want to change about my life, because the African Americans, they are cursed enough. So let them manifest that curse. I don't want to curse anymore. And the minute I start cursing, I will end my life, and I'm about to end the broadcast because I don't want to curse anymore. The curse is the European and his black slave. That's enough curse. I don't need to curse. You are the curse. So there is no need for me to curse. Great evening to all of you who took time to listen. Subscribe to my channel. It's The Haitian Voice. The Haitian Voice brings logic. We're not about race war. We're not about dividing humans. I love all humans. I love all humans who love themselves. I love all humans who love me back. But so far, in my own personal, African Americans have made my, because of the racism they have created with the white masses. So I'm speaking my truth because I'm experiencing in my truth. When I go to an office, it's not a white man who discriminated against me. It's the African American behind the desk. When I go to the courts, it's the African American judge who plot against me with his bailiff. It's not a white man who do it. So enough with the skin color bullshit. The African Americans, they can keep that skin color because it's the same skin color bullshit that gave them possession of West Africa. But look at West Africa right now. The same thing they did to West Africa, they're going to do to the Americas. And they've already done to the Americas. They take the ownership, they do the hard work, and they transfer it to their masses. And that's the bottom line. The African Americans, they are devils. They are the devil incarnated. Them and their masses, they are the devil. They commit the same acts of horror against me. To take my land, to take my position in the Americas, to hijack my bloodline. Good evening, everyone.